Hello everyone, our presentation is on air quality, specifically the South Coast Air Quality Management District. So to start us off, let's talk about clean air. Perfectly clean air is characterized as the following: 76% nitrogen, 23% oxygen, then we have 1% argon, and 0.03% carbon dioxide. This perfectly clean air cannot be found in the natural environment, but it can be produced artificially through filtration and other methods. Then we have the normal air that we breathe, which is a mixture of particles and vapors that arise from natural and anthropogenic sources. These sources are like volcanic ash, dust, organic material, and then we also have power plants, oil refineries, and vehicles. Next, we have air pollutants. So criteria air pollutants are ozone, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, and lead. These pollutants can be characterized as primary or secondary depending on if it was directly emitted from the natural or anthropogenic sources, or as secondary when they are generated from chemical reactions amongst the primary pollutants. Next, we also have the Air Quality Index, or the AQI, which can be used to check air quality in a local area and what health effects may be of particular concern for an individual. This can be found in your weather apps, such as like on the iPhone if you scroll down a little bit. And the quality and corresponding health effects can be seen in the table to your right. In the next slide, we have monitoring and controlling. So the United States has made strides towards improving the air quality and thus reducing levels of pollutants in the air. This is due to bad air quality being associated with things such as lung cancer, skin cancer, damage to tissues, breathing and lung impairments, bronchitis, pneumonia, and more. These health effects are of particular importance because the U.S. was the leading producer of greenhouse gases with 23% of the Earth's emissions of such pollutants. This was declared at the beginning of the 21st century, and with only 4% of the world's population, the U.S. is the second leading source of carbon dioxide emissions. With populations and industrialization increasing in lower income nations, contributions to greenhouse gases are increasing. Some of the steps that the world has taken to monitor and control air pollutants and thus reducing the emissions of harmful air pollution are through the use of climate protocols, technological controls, and energy conservation. In addition, mechanical devices such as scrubbers, filters, and electrostatic precipitators are used to reduce the industrial emissions of particulate matter. Now, going back to climate protocols, there was the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. The Kyoto Protocol was an international treaty that addressed climate change through a legally binding commitment amongst nations. Its purpose was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that were believed to be the cause of climate change. It was initiated in 1997, but stalled due to an inadequate number of countries ratifying it, and eventually opposed in 2005. Despite its setbacks, this international conference affected the world positively by providing and increasing awareness of the importance to control greenhouse gases. And then the Paris Climate Conference in December of 2015 culminated with the Paris Agreement. A total of 195 countries adopted this legally binding agreement. Like the Kyoto Protocol, they required nations to keep the global temperature rise during the present century to be kept below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Countries would also seek to limit the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Parties to the agreement would report periodically on their progress in meeting climate change targets and would reconvene every 5 years for a reassessment of their progress. 30 days after the conference, at least 55% of the parties that were responsible for at least a total of 55% of greenhouse gases officially ratified the Paris Agreement. The agreement came into force on November 4th, 2016. However, on June 1st, 2017, President Trump announced the withdrawal of the United States from the Paris Agreement. In all, these are just some of the ways that climate change is being brought to awareness, to the front line, and how countries all over the globe are monitoring and controlling the harmful air pollutants and emissions to slow down climate change.
The primary goals of the agency. South Coast AQMD's mission is to clean the air and protect the health of all residents in the South Coast Air District through practical and innovative strategies. As a mean of measuring progress towards successful completion of this mission, South Coast AQMD has established goals and priority objectives. Some of the primary objectives of this agency includes implement the action plan for toxic facilities, secure incentive funding for emissions reduction, ensure efficient air monitoring and laboratory operations, ensure timely inspections of facilities, and support development of cleaner advanced technology.
Along with the primary goals, there are some secondary goals that this agency upholds, and that's to be able to inform the public and educate them on air pollution and air quality. Some of these goals are outreach events and media relations, timely investigations of the community and their complaints, and social media efforts to make sure that they educate the community, along with engaging young persons because they are the future, and so engaging with them would help. Next, we'll cover the service area coverage. So for this agency, their jurisdiction is over the following. They cover San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Orange County, Los Angeles County, both eastern and western regions. They do also cover the city of Los Angeles. So this is a pretty big jurisdiction and service area that this agency has. There's also a very specified list of cities to check if this agency covers your city. You can check their website and they have all the cities listed on there. So the organizational size and jurisdiction for this agency is quite large. The organization is composed of a variety of teams. Each team contains a lot of subdivisions and sub-workers. Starting at the beginning, there's the governing board that's made up of 13 different officials. The next following is the executive office. The executive office is composed of 5 people, each of them taking in consideration what the other teams uphold and have to say so that they can all make collective decisions and give the correct information to the communities. And then there's the legal team, which helps them just make sure they're keeping all their legal paperwork and all that good stuff. Next would be the science and technology advancement, which is pretty important because this is all based off science. So as long as they're informed and up to date and making sure that they have the most relative information, it helps the organization and their validity be able to be upheld. Next is the engineering and permitting. This just helps them with whatever kind of projects they want to take on. They have the correct permits and the correct teamwork to be able to work together. That's composed of 8 different people. There's also the compliance and enforcement group that's composed of 5 people, the planning and the rule development and area sources. There's 3 people in charge, and there's several sub-departments and different groups that go out and help planning and kind of develop all these projects. Next would be the legislative and the public affairs and media. There's 2 people in charge and several under them, as I said. Next would be admin, so that's just one main person, and there's a lot of people under them. Of course, you need financing just to keep in budgeting and making sure that they're not overspending. Lastly would be the information management, and that's kind of who reaches out to the community and who does talk to them about what's going on and any projects that they have going on.
The South Coast Air Quality Management District is responsible for monitoring the ambient air quality using the Air Quality Index, also known as the AQI, within the South Coast AQMD's 4-county jurisdiction. The air quality index used by the agency indicates how clean or polluted the air is by measuring levels of pollutants that have the potential to result in serious health effects. Control measures that the South Coast AQMD is taking is utilizing plans like the Air Quality Management Plan to deal with specific pollutants in specific geographic locations, working to reduce pollution, greenhouse gases, toxic risk, energy use, and more. And finally, working with other agencies to develop new regulations.
Next, we have environmental indicators for monitoring. To preface this, the South Coast Air Quality Management District was established to help facilitate compliance with our Federal Clean Air Act, as well as to develop regulations that help facilities achieve the set public health standards. The agency does this through their annual emissions reporting program, also known as AER, which tracks the emissions of air pollutants from permitted facilities, meaning facilities that were granted permits by the South Coast AQMD. So facilities will be required to file an annual emissions report if they meet one of the following criteria. The first one is if they have estimated annual emissions of 4 or more tons of sulfur dioxide, volatile organic compounds, nitrogen oxides, specific organics, or particulate matter. They would also have to file if they have estimated annual emissions of 100 or more tons of carbon monoxide. So altogether, the data that is collected through the AER program helps the agency to better design effective strategies that help facilities meet our set air quality standards. Next, we'll move on to discuss the deep sea model. So the first component of the model is driving forces. Driving forces refers to factors that may influence or promote any ongoing environmental processes. So some examples of driving forces of air pollution would include things like population growth, urbanization, transportation, as well as business and industry. Now, how the South Coast AQMD addresses these driving forces is, for instance, within their own agency, they promote energy conservation as well as the use of low-carbon fuel technologies and renewable energy. Their agency is also a part of the development of various policies and programs that were created to address air pollution issues. The next component of the model is pressures. Pressures refers to the effects or results of the presence of driving forces. Some examples of pressures of air pollution would include things like fossil fuel emissions and high energy consumption. How the South Coast AQMD addresses these pressures would be again through their various policies and programs, such as their Clean Port Initiative, which allows for enhanced air quality reviews and air monitoring. Through the initiative, the agency is also able to coordinate with harbors and ports on emission control measures, as well as to support legislative efforts to fund port cleanups. The next component is state of environment. State of environment refers to simply the state or quality of the environment. Some examples of effects of air pollution on the environment would include poorer air quality as well as high levels of contaminants. As for how the South Coast AQMD addresses these effects, they have 2 policies to make note of: the climate change policy and their air quality related energy policy. Through their climate change policy, they collaborate with other agencies and entities to develop protocols that are related to greenhouse gases, such as discussing cap and trade programs as well as supporting relevant legislation. As for their air quality related energy policy, this policy consists of 10 policies and 10 actions related to air quality that are meant to be put into practice by agencies, and it was developed in collaboration with over 140 other businesses and organizations. Following state, we have the exposure component. Exposure refers to the intersection between humans and any existing environmental hazards. In the case of air pollution, opportunities for exposure may include things like living in areas with poor air quality, so for instance, in cities or near highways and freeways or near ports or even near industrial factories. Exposure to air pollution also occurs either through inhalation or skin contact. Now, one way that the South Coast AQMD addresses exposure to air pollution is through their environmental justice program. Through this program, they enact a lot of community initiatives to improve air quality, such as hosting workshops and meetings on air quality issues. That way they can arm community members with the necessary information to protect themselves. The next component is effects.
effects refers to the wide range of potential health effects that can result from exposure to an environmental hazard. Some examples of more mild health effects of air pollution would include diminished lung function, the development or worsening of asthma, and skin irritation. Air pollution exposure can also lead to some more serious health consequences, such as an increased chance of developing heart disease, lung cancer, various types of lung and respiratory diseases, as well as stroke. As for how South Coast AQMD addresses these effects, they do so in two key ways: through their Health Effects of Air Pollution Foundation, as well as their Asthma and Outdoor Air Quality Consortium, both of which fund research on clarifying the relationship between air pollution and its related health consequences. The last component of the deep sea model is actions. Actions refers to any action that is undertaken by humans in response to an environmental hazard, whether it be short or long term. The South Coast AQMD has taken action against air pollution in a number of ways, through their various programs and policies, for example, such as their Clean School Bus program and again their Environmental Justice program. They develop educational programs and air quality presentations for K through 12 schools. They host town hall meetings and community events to arm the general public with the necessary information. And they also advocate consistently for legislation that targets air pollution and promotes stricter air quality regulation.
So now I will discuss the pros and cons of emerging technologies, issues, hazards that may impact the environmental challenges associated with this topic. So for the pros, solar energy systems do not produce air pollution or greenhouse gases. Solar energy replaces or reduces the use of other energy sources that have larger effects on the environment. Fabric filters help remove particles from the contaminated gas stream by depositing the particles on fabric material. Biofilters help remove contaminants from the air, which can include microbes and other harmful gases that can harm human health. As for the cons, some solar energy systems like the solar power tower can kill birds and insects that fly into the beam. Some solar power plants may require water for cleaning solar collectors and concentrators. Using large volumes of groundwater or surface water for cleaning collectors in some arid locations may affect the ecosystems that depend on these water resources. Pesticides are harmful chemicals that can stay in the air for a long time and can kill plants and trees in the environment. TVs, computers, radio waves, and cell phones can cause radiation pollution, which can increase the chances of someone developing cancer or cause.
Lastly, we have our questions, which are a mix of true or false and multiple choice. Our first four are from the book, and the last four are from the South Coast Air Management District website. So feel free to pause the video now and check the textbook and the website for the programs and incentives that the SCAQMD promotes. Once you're ready, you can unpause the video and check your answers in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. On the next page are our references. And thank you for watching our presentation.